Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Marketing Corner podcast with Casper and myself. Today, we are going to be covering the necessary marketing tech stack for startups, scale-ups, and B2B businesses. And this was actually a request from our listener. I apologize in advance because I'm probably not going to say the surname correctly, but from Mariella Madzarova.
I think that was really good.
Apologize in advance, Mariella. Yeah. Thank you so much. And she's awesome. She's always super engaged on LinkedIn. So you guys should check her out. But yeah, this request came in. And actually, as I was preparing for this episode, it's kind of hard to find a definitive must-have list because every business is different. Everyone has their own opinion. And I think I read a statistic that's like 80% of CMOs hate their tech stack. And it's very much like, as we need something, we'll buy it. As we need, instead of having like the backbone of what's going to get us through, it becomes a mess. And I can't even count how many different tools we have at the moment because it's
exactly just... right. Like it's actually a really hard question to answer. And I think we'll do our best here and we'll cover some of the things that I've personally and you have found to be really working well. But let's be honest, every tech stack will be different. And we're basing it on B2B marketing where we do like large company enterprise kind of sales, right? We do pretty big sales, a little bit smaller, but you do really big sales too, right? So, but maybe if you're a B2B and you sell to one man, companies who just started, right? Then your tech stack is probably way different than ours. Or maybe it's a self sign up service, and it's also way different than what we're going to talk about here. So take everything you hear here with a grain of salt and do your own due diligence. But there are some clear winners in each category. I don't think I think you can easily say that.
And I think it's also important to just to jump in and keep in mind budgets and things. So at Dixa we have a higher budget than maybe a smaller company. So maybe some of our tools are going to be a little bit more sophisticated, and that's just how it works. So we'll try to kind of keep in mind how much certain tools cost, because the smaller you are, the more you want to be cost conscious. Yeah, sorry.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Should we start with all the things that are, I want to say, internal? Those are the internal tools that, like, of course, they might have a little bit touch without the outer world, but they're more like for how you function as a team. Here, I'm specifically thinking stuff like marketing, like classic marketing automation tools like HubSpot, like ActiveCampaign, maybe email sending, MailChimp, whatever. Right. What do you guys use for marketing automation more in Dixa?
I've always only used HubSpot, to be honest. So I like to kind of think about it in like attraction, engagement, and then kind of the different steps. But HubSpot is one of those tools that work in every single layer of the funnel. I know Marketo is out there. I know Pardot is out there. I've just never used them myself.
I've used Pardot in the past, but it was terrible. Like full transparency, if anyone's using Pardot and listening, I'm sorry, but at least in my opinion, it was not worth it. I felt like it was it's one of those things where I think Salesforce bought it and then they it's kind of like a cash cow for them. Like they haven't like it's funny when you read the like help section. Haven't been product developed for like 4 years. So I feel like it's a little slow. But I'm also on the HubSpot train, and the reason I wanted to, because I think we should go by your model. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is that I think it's pretty much a foundation for everything else we do, right?
Yeah.
Like and HubSpot is just it's just good. It just works. Like they're super smart about things. Like the pricing model for an early stage startup is brilliant, right? Like I got it for Compliant when I was there for a short stint, but it was great there because it got us like fully. We had the forms, you had landing pages, you have email automation, you even have chatbots, stuff like that. You have pop-ups, even like. I think one of the things I've learned about HubSpot in general is that while HubSpot, there's a few things that they do extremely well, like form submissions, stuff like that. Whoa, that's awesome! And the automation, the workflow is really good. But there's also like the chatbots and stuff like the pop-ups. Well, are they the best tools out there? Absolutely no. Absolutely not. But if you want to find a tool that kind of encapsulates a lot of things, you don't have to have a huge tech stack right off the bat,
Mhm.
then HubSpot can do that. And so a lot of the tools we're going to mention here are, well, they're covered by HubSpot sometimes.
Mhm.
Is HubSpot as good? No, but you don't only have to have one tool, and that's really, really valuable. You should
Yeah.
not look like that. That's really good.
I
But
think
let's
that's an excellent point. And yeah,
yeah,
and just as you grow, and this is something that we saw. Yeah, we started with HubSpot, for example, for landing pages. But then as we grew, we were like, actually, we need our landing pages to be a little bit more sexy. So then you adopt a new tool. And this is a lot of what happens in marketing tech stack is like, okay, now we've got WordPress and HubSpot. And now
yeah,
we've got MailChimp and HubSpot. And now, as you kind of grow, you want to get more sophisticated, but you still have this baseline HubSpot supporting you for things like those. I love the workflows
yeah.
as well. The if then branches that really help make one person
So
armies
good,
just look like
right?
huge teams. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's so
so
good. And and
um,
and and we also just implemented WordPress for our new website, right? Instead of using HubSpot. And that's
mhm,
in my opinion, that's one of HubSpot's weak points, the CMS, right? It's
yeah.
not that good. Like it's just complicated.
Mhm.
Not a big fan. So, but let's go by your model, Jenny, and let's start with attract, engage, and analyze, optimize.
Yeah, cool.
So let's
So
start from the top.
what kind of tech would you use to attract people to your website and traffic and things like that? I think that's a really important first step for a lot of startups. How do you get your name out there? How do you get people to come to your website? So what can't you live without, Casper?
I don't think I've ever launched. So I use very few tools, especially in early stage startups, for just making ads. I simply do on the actual platform. So for
Mhm.
Google Ads, I use the Google Ads editor, which is it's one of those lifesavers. Like it's a free tool. It's just part of the using Google Ads. And everyone who's ever done Google Ads a bit more professionally, they will know how it is, what it is, and stuff. But if you haven't and you're just dipping your toes, give it a look, because essentially what it does is just allow you to copy paste things and just like move way faster. So
Mhm.
you can launch 1,000 ads a day, and essentially stuff like
Yep.
so that's good. But other than that, I use like the Facebook and LinkedIn, or like go-to platforms that's pretty normal. But also really quickly, I always have in my budgets that I start testing stuff like, especially if it's the American market, I start testing Bing. I start testing
Mhm.
Capterra pretty fast as well. So those are two of the platforms I also go to, like in terms of, you can call it tech stack, but that's like the platforms I test on.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, I would, yeah, put that under the umbrella of like ad tech,
Yeah,
for the tech stack.
exactly.
And I, like you, I much prefer doing everything natively in the platforms. Yeah, I've tried doing it through these third-party tools. Where it's like, oh, we do this one ad, and then we'll export it to LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, and it never, the formatting gets messed up, or yeah. So and HubSpot has
I'm
this
like,
feature as well, doesn't
yeah,
it?
exactly. Which I
Yeah.
really don't use, but
No, no, I don't
but,
use it either.
but I know the agencies like to use the Ad Espresso in the past, I think it was called. And
Yes, I've used them before as well.
I just never used it, but that might
Yeah.
just be me. So,
I've used that
but
espresso before, and they're very good at you can look at the data afterwards to see different. They kind of did the dynamic ad before the dynamic ad,
yeah,
so it was a really good way of seeing what combination worked best. But now you can do that natively as well, and I just feel safer
yeah,
in the
and
native
like
platforms.
there's a lot of tools I would love to try in that space. Like I think Confect is one of the
Hmm.
B2C interesting tools. I think it's more B2C focused. Yeah, I think you can use it in B2B as far as I understand. But that's one of the tools I'm looking at if I ever want to try something for this space, especially for like picture, like image ads and stuff. But I haven't tried it yet. I can't try it with you. Let's move on. Let's say like so. What about like what do you think for SEO? Like in some terms of
Mm.
SEO, I think that's a huge topic. We can almost have a session on it on its own. Maybe we should. But what do you guys use for SEO?
Well, first and foremost, we have an agency that helps us.
Okay.
So that's something, again, a luxury that when you get larger, your larger scale up, you can bring in an agency. SEO is not my strong point at all. So when we do that episode, you're going to do all the talking, and I'm going to take notes because it's just really not something that's in my wheelhouse at all. So I was more comfortable with an agency, but we also use Ahrefs and
Yeah.
SEO Monitor. Are the two that we use, and then we have an agency, a Copenhagen-based agency, who's really great,
Yeah.
who kind of help us out a lot.
I also like it. SEO is not actually not my strong suit at all, but
Oh,
I
okay.
definitely know a bit about it. But one of the tools I always invest in quite early on for just analyzing. Like it's just so good, it's so versatile. I use Ahrefs, as you brought up as
Hmm.
well. That
Hmm.
so if I had to pick a SEO tool, if I could afford one, then that would be my go-to, and it is my go-to. We literally have it in United FinTech, had it in Compliant, had it in
Hmm.
Amplify.
Any
Screaming
agency
Frog
I've, yeah,
is
Screaming Frog.
pretty good too. It's pretty good
Yeah.
too. SEMrush is also fine. I like sometimes I've used similar web a little bit. If there's like a lot of like especially good for looking at competitors and also
Yeah.
like
That's
that
kind of
space
what we use SimilarWeb for
yeah,
mostly.
exactly. I think that's
Yeah.
great too. But if you're just talking hardcore SEO stuff, then Ahrefs is my go-to. I never understood how to say it though. It's technically like Ahrefs, right? But
Yeah, I
anyways.
call it, yeah, Ahrefs, I think. Now you've got me thinking about
Yeah.
it.
What about
Cool.
stuff like design tech,
Hmm.
ABM tech? Do you have any of that stuff?
We do. I think design tech is again a luxury. I wouldn't say I can live without it because you have things like
Hmm.
Canva. You have some
I actually
tools
have
that
Canva on my go-to list every time.
I
But
use Canva like personally, if I'm making a birthday card or something
yeah.
like that because it's super easy. But again, we have the luxury of having a full-time designer. She
Hmm.
is very, very good at Adobe,
Yeah.
the Adobe Suite, Photoshop, and she uses Figma as well, which help us
Yeah.
kind of as a team see
Figma's
things.
great.
Figma is
Yeah.
really great, and you can see it in context. You can see all the different ads, how they're all going to look. It's a really great tool.
Yeah. I love Figma. I think Figma is kind of if you're like let's say you're in a really small startup, then Figma is kind of like also a product tool, right? You can use it
Hmm.
for a lot of the product teams use it a lot too. So it's not so it can be used for multiple things, but the Figma is definitely also my go-to pretty fast. I gotta say, when I was at Compliant, also when I started here, FinTech, I was still a one-man army, and now I'm building a team, but so it's not as relevant anymore. But Canva is like, yeah, I don't, I it seems so like I'm not a sophisticated marketeer when it comes to that stuff. Canva
Hmm.
has done a lot of great ads for me. Like I've used the
Canva's
Canva
great.
tool, like, and you can make it super easy, ship it. You can make a presentation really fast, all that stuff. My
Hmm.
wife just used it for her CV. It's just great.
And if you combine, one of the things I like to do also is Unsplash,
Yeah,
combining with
yeah,
Canva, right? So if you have no budget and no design skills, I have zero design skills.
yeah.
You
Me
go to
too. Me too.
Unsplash, you get a really cool image that's for free, and then you can import it into Canva and you can put your text on it and
Exactly right.
yeah.
So that is just to say you can get quite far, and of course, the more you develop, the more advanced tools you need. But Figma is not
Mhm.
advanced, but more advanced. Adobe is maybe, but
Adobe's advanced, yeah. I
yeah,
tried and whew, all them layers,
yeah.
yeah, I can't figure it out. So
What
I'm
about
very happy to have my designer.
yeah, yeah, me too, absolutely. What about ABM tech? We could cover one of the last points.
Yeah,
Personally,
again,
I
I
think
don't.
like the. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a luxury. I think,
Yeah,
if you're a smaller company, you don't need this yet. We just launched 6 Sense,
yeah,
which is what we use, but we also looked at Terminus
yeah,
as well as an option. It was a really difficult choice to be made, and it's uh, it's pretty sexy. It integrates with Salesforce, and so there's a really great way of making sure that sales are picking up and doing their outreach part, following up from the marketing side of things. So we
yeah,
use 6 Sense. Um, and then we also kind of use Salesforce. So a lot of our ICP data is in Salesforce. You can take lists out of Salesforce, plug it into 6 Sense, take lists out of 6 Sense, plug them into Salesforce. There's a really good outreach also can integrate. So,
yeah.
the sales emails, so you can see all those touch points.
But and I've never used Sixth Sense, but I've heard about it, looked at it, and I think it's great. It looks good, at least, right? But it's probably really expensive, right? Like,
Yeah, it's
without
not cheap.
knowing yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
like I think the overall point around ABM tech, and I think we brought this up in our previous episode, but ABM is it's not the first thing I would start off with if I was a startup. Once you're a
Mhm.
scale up site like Dixa, like Templify, or
Mhm.
soon United FinTech, then ABM makes a lot of sense, and then it maybe makes sense to invest. I think
And once
the
you have
question
your
around
ICP, as we talked about in the
yes,
previous, once you have your
yeah,
ICP and you know who you want to go after, then
yeah.
invest in an ABM tool.
ABM tech is really one of those things where you have to be extremely clear about what you're doing. Like you
Yeah.
have to know exactly why you're doing it. because you're taking budget out of something else. So that's always the case, right? Okay, let's we have a lot of ground to cover here, Jen. So let's move
Yeah.
on.
Cool.
Engage, video conferencing tech. There's so much different stuff out there. What are your favorites here?
Well, when I think of video conferencing, I think of more webinars in terms of engaging with your audience, right? So we use Livestorm.
I love Livestorm.
Yeah, they're pretty easy to use,
too.
very user friendly, and that helps you with signups. It helps you with sending out automatic reminders and all of that good stuff. So webinar tools.
I agree. Like I use Zoom a little bit, but Livestorm is probably the one I always end up. It's the one I always end up with if I'm on a strapped budget. I think that's important to say because Livestorm was also pretty cheap. I just want to say though, like I've actually used I don't think the webinar part of this, I haven't used it in a while, so but with 23 actually, it's your previous company and like in the past, I think that's actually I really liked it. Like they still need to fix a bit of their webinar stuff. It's still not perfect. It crashes a little bit too much and stuff, but it's a lot better. And it does some of the things that I think Livestorm misses is that it integrates into like your whole analytics around webinar and integrates into HubSpot, which we both use a lot. So I've actually liked that a lot in the past. I haven't implemented it for United FinTech yet, but I'm looking into doing something like that because I think that's one of the things that Zoom or Livestorm or all of the other webinar tools out there are missing is this like full analytics background.
Yeah, exactly. And 23 is really great with the analytics. The only thing you have to remember is you need to look at the analytics. You have to have the time to actually look at it and make sure you learn from it and optimize and things like that. And when you're bigger, you can. When you're smaller,
it comes down to our point previously, right? Like, is that the tool you start out with day one? No, then you probably use Livestorm. But is it the tool you use when your Templify size or whatever it takes the size, right? Maybe. Then it definitely becomes more of an option in my opinion. Okay, let's talk about email marketing. And like these topics are huge, so just for everyone listening, we can't cover them so much in depth, but we try as much as we can. What do you use for email marketing?
We use HubSpot. So, we have two kind of email situations going on. So we use HubSpot for marketing tech, for marketing emails. But because of GDPR, because we cannot communicate with customers unless they opt in, we keep customers completely separate from HubSpot. So our CS team to communicate with existing customers use MailChimp. Because for them, that's much easier because we don't want to mix the two. So we actually, as soon as someone becomes a customer, they come out of HubSpot because we want to make sure that we adhere to GDPR. We only want to communicate with people who have opted in, and that's the easiest thing for us. So there's two kind of systems, but MarTech, we use HubSpot.
Yeah, I use HubSpot as well. Like one of the companies we bought has this system called MarTech, which is the real scrappy version of MailChimp or something.
Okay.
It works, but that's about it. Like I'm not a big fan. It's a little bit. I think it's open source even. So but if you're really on a tight budget, then that could also potentially be something you should look into. But I've also just used HubSpot primarily, Pardot in the past as well.
Yeah, the HubSpot emails are easy though. They're easy to use. Great analytics, and it works. Yeah.
I want to bring up Active Campaign. I think I haven't tried them, but if I were to start over again and I didn't, for some reason, I wouldn't go for HubSpot, then Active Campaign would probably be the second one I would look into or try.
Okay.
I think what I hear from other people is that it's good. So I would definitely check that one out.
Cool.
We have the data enrichment tech. That's my favorite.
Yeah, take it away.
No, but I've used a lot here. I've tried a lot of different things. I think this is like a huge topic as well. But one of the things I definitely want to add is that I've used Clearbit. And speaking of the tools not applicable for an early day startup, then Clearbit is definitely one of them. Yeah. So without saying too much about Clearbit's pricing, it's really expensive. And sometimes like I question like a lot if it was worth it. I am still not 100% sure it was worth it for Templify. I think they needed to be even bigger, but I think you do like once you do get it. However, the world just becomes your oyster. Like you can do so many
Yeah.
things. Like I love to like we did form shortening, so you could like whenever somebody typed in their email, the rest of the form field would automatically be filled in. That was amazing.
Yeah, we use
I
that.
didn't finish it, but we started out personalization, right? Where each image would change based on the IP and all this data. Of course, this is a little weaker during COVID, and we talked about it as well. But it's still super powerful, and you don't need necessarily Clearbit to do this personalization part, but you need the data from somewhere. And the other one is Zoom Info, and I think you guys probably know it quite well as well, right? And
Yep.
like Zoom Info, in my opinion, Zoom Info has really done well over the last 2 years because it's still really expensive. They all are, but they really managed to package their things in a way that just makes so much sense. It's good for your outbound team that like you all when you zoom in for there. But now they really have some good data zoom in for. So it's do you need both? I don't think so, but having both is just a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you have
Absolutely,
used
yeah.
any of these or?
Yeah, we use a Clearbit, as you said, with
Okay.
filling out fields. So we want to make sure our data is accurate, but also we want to make sure that we keep the fields to a minimum. But because we have such a specific ICP, as we spoke about in the last episode, it's important that we know who's talking to us and where they're coming from. And then actually our lead intelligence team, who again make sure that leads are good quality and they can look up, if a company signs up for something, what's their latest funding round? What kind of communication channels do they use? Like all of this really, really great stuff they can get through Zoom Info. And that helps us, again, narrow down, is this a core ICP? Is this who we really want to go after? Or do we send them to the newsletter? Or,
Yeah, exactly.
who do we prioritize? So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What about let's in the press like we don't have a lot of time, so let's keep it moving. We have event tech. Like, do you use anything there? I actually haven't used anything, to be honest.
Eventbrite is what we use, but there's we've always had trouble with getting them from Eventbrite into HubSpot. It's kind of a hassle, and we can talk about that maybe in a different episode because there's not a lot of events happening at the moment.
No, but yeah,
and I
think there's a bunch of tools happening on this side. I just haven't used any of them to be completely honest.
Yeah, there's Tame as well, which is an interesting one because it's they're local as well. They're Copenhagen. So let's jump into analyze and optimize, because this I think is they're tools that are super important, but maybe more than a one person army can handle. So we use, for example, Hotjar to help us look at how people behave on our website, to help us optimize our website. Is that a must have? Maybe not in the early days, but it's a nice to have. But Google Analytics, in terms of web
Google
analytics
is your go-to. You gotta, like, even though there's a lot of talks about these days about Google Analytics being inaccurate and blah 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 because it's cookie based and stuff, and that's true. But you still gotta have it though. Like it's free and it just gives you so much. Like I would never run a website without having analytics. I don't think I would ever do that.
Yeah.
There comes a point where maybe analytics is unnecessary. I would never upgrade it to it costs like $1 million a year or something. I would never do that as well.
Yeah,
but
that's crazy.
Unless you're really big. But yeah. I think one thing on the website I'm finishing, like Hotjar is so, like, I love Hotjar, but also like it's so seldomly used for my sake. It's just like I find if I use it once a month, that's probably pushing it. Like
right.
It's just the tech stack is so huge, and you gotta have a point with having Hotjar. Like if you have a front end developer on your team who works on your website, then I would have it. And if you have like a growth person, you guys do, right? Yeah. And if you have like a dedicated growth person who's not me with a full calendar, then yes, I would do it too.
Exactly. Attribution tech. We talked a little bit about attribution in a previous episode, but again, I think this might be a little bit more for the larger teams to see revenue attribution. 100%. Of course, it's important to know where things are coming from. But again, if you're running the show yourself, you'll be able to look at native platforms and things like that and see where the good leads are coming from.
Exactly. Like for me, attribution, and we talked about this in the previous episodes, I don't want to hackle too much on it, but attribution for me is not a thing when you're an early stage startup. Don't invest in tools like this, and no hard feelings, but you It's just not. It doesn't make sense. Like get your HubSpot, get your all your other stuff in place, generate some leads. Once you cross like 100 employees, then it becomes maybe relevant. But once you're like, if you're 50 employees, I wouldn't even touch it, to be honest. Like
Fair enough.
once you have a marketing team with some resources behind it, you have a bigger budget, then yes. But it is like even the cheaper versions out there, they're still expensive. Like,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, definitely.
And I know you have a hard stop. Just really quick, project management tech. This is something that's absolutely a nightmare for every company I've ever worked in, because you have product using Jira, you've got marketing using, I think in one company we use Basecamp, Trello, and Hive all at the same time. What do you do to make sure that everyone in the company knows what's going on? Or do
absolutely. Yeah. So we use, I've used a bunch of them. I had the same problem as you have. We use Monday in United FinTech. And it's actually a strategic company decision. And I love it. Like actually, I'm a big fan. I've used Trello in the past, and me and Trello have just never been friends. I've tried to make Trello work so many times, but I just never ended up in a good place. But Monday is different. I like Monday. You can do so many cool automations around it. So I like Monday. I use it for my marketing team, and we're doing good. Like I really like what we're doing with it. So so Monday has definitely been the one I use. I like Notion as well. Like it's fun to say
we use Notion company wide.
And that is really good because Monday is expensive. So that's also a little bit. But if I was just starting out, like Trello is fine if you're just starting out, but Notion is great. Like, Notion is awesome in my opinion. You just need to tweak it a lot.
And you need to make sure people use it, because I think the thing that we have is a lot of teams use like Google Drive, right? And so a lot of stuff is on Google Drive, and then you're like, can you move that over to Notion, because the whole company needs to see this. And so you're kind of always having to remind yourself to put this on Notion, put this on Notion. But the marketing team on our marketing team, we use Asana at the moment, and that works good for our team. But when it comes to the larger company and they want to see our events calendar, they want to see what we have on our plate, they don't have Asana. And so that's where we end up having to duplicate what we're doing so that the company can see our events and things like that. So we haven't really cracked it with the one size fits all. Everyone's using the same thing. And
I don't think Monday is, I think Monday is great, like for marketing and what we do. I don't think Monday is good for product development. So I've used Jira like a bit for being a part of these sprints, and I love Jira for that. But I don't like Jira for my marketing team. Like,
exactly.
So
product are like, put it on Jira, and we're like, nope, put that on Asana.
So no, it's just a way of working, and you have to find it out yourself. Like there's so much to it. But yeah, I think that was a really speedy version of all the tools. Like there's so many more tools to talk about. Like the tech stacks can be huge. We can go on all day. But I think there's some fundamentals. Like if I were starting out, I would always have Google Analytics on my site, the scripts from the different platforms, and I would probably have HubSpot. If there was any sort of budget behind you or whatever you're doing, then I would have HubSpot. If I didn't have HubSpot, maybe Pipedrive, I could probably make do with that. But other than that, HubSpot solves a lot of the early stage startup, and they have some like the first year you get 90% off. It just doesn't make sense to get anything else, like
because you can grow with it. They've done a great job. I think just on an ending note, Scott Brinker at HubSpot, he's the VP of ecosystems. He did a MarTech slide where he outlined all the MarTech companies, and I think there's 7,000 different MarTech companies out there that you could use. So we try to distill it down to the must-haves for the smaller companies, but I'm sure one of these days we'll do another episode where maybe we talk about medium to larger size businesses as well.
And I think there's and if you're listening and you think, hey, can you guys take a closer look at one specific area, like it'd be like project management, like we can make a whole episode around how to project manage your team, whatever it is. Just tell us. We'll probably we'll keep coming up with this. So it's not like we won't. But if there's anything specific, like more specific, then we'd be happy to cover it. So.
Brilliant.
Cool.
On that note,
thanks for listening,
so much.
Guys. Yeah.
Thank you, and see you next time.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.